After the will reading, my family threw me out without a cent. I went to use the old card my grandpa had left me, but the banker turned pale and shouted, "Ma'am, quickly, look at this." I was in shock when I discovered that. My name is Erica. I'm 31, the oldest kid, and the woman who knows which cleaning solution gets gum off hardwood. I'm a janitor, not a facilities engineer, a janitor. Night shifts, bleach hands, keys on a jingling ring. For years, I lived in my mother's house with everyone else. Mom, my stepdad Pete, and my sister Kayla, paying half the bills temporarily. Temporary somehow turned into permanent. I fixed the boiler, unclogged drains, and boiled pasta when they forgot to eat. That was me, the quiet one with a plunger in one hand and a trash bag in the other. The day after Grandpa's funeral, we were all in the kitchen. Same house, same chipped mugs, same smell of burnt toast. I had my work hoodie on because grief doesn't change your time card. Mom stood at the sink, tapping her nails on a glass like it was a metronome for her patience. "Don't start with me today," she said without looking up. "You know what your grandfather really wanted." I blinked. We had just buried him. Pete folded the newspaper. "Tomorrow we read the will," he said, calm in that way people get when they've already decided your part in the story. "You'll be respectful. You won't make it weird." Kayla slid her phone into her back pocket and gave me the kind of smile you keep for a cashier you don't tip. "No speeches, okay? No martyr routine. Grandpa loved all of us." I stared at the coffee machine. It hissed. I could see my face in the chrome. Tired, shadowed, older than I felt. "I'm not planning a speech." "Good," Mom said, "because you've lived here rent cheap for years. Don't forget who carried who." "I paid the mortgage last winter," I said. "Twice." She flipped the dishcloth over her shoulder. "Don't get dramatic." The house creaked, the way it does when ghosts move from one memory to another. My phone buzzed with a schedule change. Night crew short-staffed again. I put the phone away. Pete finally looked at me. "Whatever the lawyer says tomorrow, we divide things fairly. Family first." "Fairly," Kayla echoed, like a word tasted for the first time. I nodded, because nodding is cheaper than arguing. But under the nod, something tightened. Grandpa's old wallet sat in my hoodie pocket, worn leather, a few receipts from the corner deli, and an ancient bank card he'd once pressed into my palm with a wink. "For emergencies," he'd said. I'd never used it. I figured he just wanted me to feel like I had a parachute. "Erica," Mom said, her voice sweet, like medicine you give a child. "Don't embarrass us. You know how you get." "How I get," I repeated, and went to my room, the one down the hall in the same house we all lived in, to lay out my only suit. The shoulder had a loose thread. I snipped it clean, and the scissors shook in my hand. I told myself tomorrow would be simple. Sit, listen, shake hands with the kind lawyer who smells like paper. Go home, keep the peace. I told myself a lot of things that were about to stop being true. I became the family mop by accident. At 19, I dropped out a semester to help after Pete slipped off a ladder and couldn't work for a while. I took the janitor job thinking it would be a season. It turned into 6 years, then 9. I was the one who set the trash cans out on Tuesday, who noticed the mildew before it became a health issue, who knew which bill was due because the envelopes were on the radiator, curling like old leaves. "We can cover it," Mom would say, casual as weather. She's practical. Kayla had a car Mom co-signed for, which somehow became my monthly payment during her between-job stage. Pete liked subscriptions, streaming services, lawn care, something with premium in the name. Those renewals hit the joint account like pigeons on a church roof. I kept chasing them off. I worked doubles. I scrubbed soda off theater floors and gum off school desks and God knows what off hospital linoleum at 3:00 a.m. And I kept the lights on in a house that wasn't mine, but somehow was. "Family helps family," Mom would remind me, usually after saying I was selfish. My favorite shift was at the library because the mess was quiet. People dropped gentle trash in libraries. You don't need gloves to pick up a crumpled poem. After midnight, I'd push the wide mop down the stacks and sometimes park it and sit with a copy of Grandpa's crossword books. He taught me to fill squares with pencil. He was a truck driver who retired with bad knees and good stories. When I was 10, he'd sneak me butterscotch candies and whisper, "Don't argue with fools, Erica. There's no prize." When his knees got worse, Mom moved him into our house until we figure out the care stuff. That lasted a year. I set up the spare room. I fixed the loose banister so he wouldn't fall. I drove him to appointments, tucked the bank receipts into a folder, made sure his pills didn't get mixed up. He'd hand me his old wallet when we went out. "You carry it," he said. "Makes me feel less old." That's how his bank card ended up with me. I never used it. He always took it back, then forgot, then waved me off. "Keep it. You'll give it to me when I need a donut." The day he signed his last check, Mom stood over his shoulder. "We'll take care of everything, Dad." She loved calling him Dad when forms needed signatures. The rest of the time it was Harold. Tension built like laundry. It wasn't one thing. It was 100 small ones. Kayla stole my work boots because hers were too squeaky. Mom borrowed my emergency cash for groceries and came home with a new blender. Pete trimmed the apple tree and billed me for the shared expense because fallen fruit attracts pests on your side of the yard. "Side of the yard," I said, pointing at the patch of grass that belonged to all of us and none of us. He shrugged. "Rules are rules." Every month I told myself I'd move out. Every month the math said, "Not yet." Rent in our area ballooned while my wages stretched like thin rubber. I took on an early morning office building. That meant I slept in 90-minute slices. I kept a change of clothes in my locker at work so the house wouldn't swallow my uniform in the laundry when Kayla did her quarterly wash. Grandpa and I talked at night. He'd sit at the kitchen table with the crossword glasses low on his nose. "You look tired, kid." "Productivity icon," I'd say, stirring instant noodles. "You've got more backbone than you think," he'd answer. "You just keep it in storage." Then last spring, he got pneumonia. Hospital, rehab, the whole grim tour. He came home thinner. The house felt smaller. Mom did that voice she reserves for visitors. "We're all pitching in. It's what families do." I nodded, because what else was there to do? An envelope arrived in June from his bank with a reminder about a safe deposit box. Mom snapped it up. "I'll handle this." She said it the way you say, "I'll handle dessert." Grandpa asked me to go with him next time. I said so softly she pretended not to hear. "He forgets," she said, tapping the envelope against her palm. He didn't. A week later, he pulled me into his room. "It's in my tackle box," he whispered like we were kids planning a fishing trip. "If something happens, you'll know." "Know what?" "You'll know." He patted my shoulder. "Don't argue with fools." When he died, the house went quiet in a new way. Not the soft quiet of a sleeping TV. The heavy quiet of a door bolted from the inside. Mom cried in front of people and smiled when they left. Pete stacked the sympathy cards like poker chips. Kayla posted a carousel of photos with a caption full of angel emojis. I cleaned the casserole pans. I cried into a dish towel because that's what was within reach. Then came the lawyer's call. "Will reading tomorrow." My stomach dropped. Not because I wanted money, but because I knew what money did to this family even when there wasn't much of it. That night, I overheard the living room whispers. "She knows about the box," Pete said. "So?" Kayla asked, bored and brittle. "So we present a united front," Mom replied. "We've been carrying her. She owes us." "She owes this house," Pete said, like I was a couch. "Exactly," Mom said. I lay in my small room in the same house we all shared and stared at the ceiling. There was a crack running from the light fixture to the corner, a thin dark line, a map to anywhere else. I had $180 in my account after bills. If the bus fare went up, I'd be walking. I pressed Grandpa's wallet to my chest and still smelled the faint trace of his aftershave. When I finally slept, I dreamed of pushing a mop in a hallway that never ended. Every door I passed had a sign, "Family First." Every time I tried to handle one, it shocked me. I woke up sweating. The clock read 3:12 a.m. Morning came anyway. The lawyer's office had that old book smell that makes you feel like you shouldn't breathe too loud. We sat on leather chairs that sighed. Mom wore her church face. Pete looked like a man auditioning for reasonable stepdad. Kayla was there because angles are useful in photographs. Mr. Delaney adjusted his glasses. "Thank you for coming. Mr. Harold Cole left a simple will." "Simple," Mom repeated, relieved, like she'd just been told the teacher curves grades. Mr. Delaney read, "Grandpa left small bequests to a veterans charity and the library. For the janitors who keep it running." He'd told me once, and my throat tightened. He left his tools to Pete. He left Kayla the old camera because she always pointed it at light. Then he paused and smiled at me. And to Erica, he said, he leaves his personal effects, his safe deposit box, and the contents therein, with a letter to be opened in private. The room chilled. Mom's smile didn't change shape. It just lost temperature. "Of course," she said. "We'll open the box together as a family." Mr. Delaney shook his head. "It's specifically named to Erica." "Surely we—" "It's Erica's legal property," he said, firm. Pete leaned forward. "We've taken care of Harold for years. We've housed Erica. Any assets should belong to the person he chose, Mr. Delaney finished. That's the law. Kayla exhaled slowly. So what's in it? She asked me like I had packed the thing myself. I don't know, I said, which was the truth. My hands were damp. Mom turned to me. Her voice dropped into that sugar poison register. We are not doing this. Erica, don't embarrass us. Grandpa didn't mean for you to run off with things. We'll keep the box here. We'll decide together. You live under this roof. I pay under this roof, I said quietly. Watch your tone, Pete warned. Mr. Delaney slid a small envelope across the table. There's also a letter to the family. He cleared his throat and read, Please do not fight. I have seen enough of that in this house. I trust Erica to do what's right with what I've set aside. Silence. Kayla's jaw tightened. Mom's nails tapped the armrest. Tap, tap, tap. Fine, Mom said at last. We'll talk at home. We drove back in a cloud of words that weren't spoken. At the house, as soon as the front door closed, the volume went up. Give me the key, Mom said. I don't have it, I said, which was half true. The key was where Grandpa said it was. Pete's face pinched. Don't play games. Kayla folded her arms. This is ridiculous. I walked down the hall to Grandpa's room. The bed was neatly made. I'd done it that morning because grief makes you fold corners. I knelt, pulled out the metal tackle box, and lifted the lid. There it was. A tiny brass key on a string and an index card with Grandpa's tidy block letters. Erica, box 317, emergency. Don't argue with fools. When I stood, Mom was in the doorway. You're not taking that alone, she said. Grandpa is gone. Something in me stood up that hadn't stood up in years. I slipped the string over my head. The key settled warm against my chest. I'm going to the bank, I said. I'll come back. We'll talk. Pete stepped aside, a wall dressed like a man. I brushed past. Kayla rolled her eyes hard enough to see her own brain. Don't make this a thing, she said. It already is, I answered. I walked out of the house we all lived in, the house I'd kept running with my paychecks and calluses, and for the first time in a long time, I felt my own feet. I took the bus because the car was family property. The bank was cold, like banks are. Polished floors, pens on strings, a printed sign about community values next to a rack of loan pamphlets. Hi, I told the teller. Safe deposit box, 317. I held up the key with fingers that trembled. She smiled professionally. One moment, ma'am. I'll get our manager. The manager arrived. Mid-40s, crisp shirt, the kind of polite you practice. His badge read David. He led me to a small room and asked for ID. I handed him my license and Grandpa's old card because it felt connected to the whole thing. He glanced at the card, then at the screen. The blood left his face. Ma'am, he said, voice low. Quickly, look at this. He turned the monitor toward me. My mouth went dry. On the screen was an alert tied to the card number. It wasn't a balance, it was a freeze. A red banner. Fraud watch. Safe deposit access conflict. Contact executive desk. Under it, a string of notes. Dates. Attempts. Names. David swallowed. We flagged multiple unauthorized attempts to access the box in the last week. Only one person is listed as owner. My grandfather said he wanted me to. David nodded. Yes, he listed you. Only you. But there were 2 people trying to get in on Tuesday and again yesterday with a copy key and a letter. The letter wasn't valid. I knew those dates. They lined up with hospital days and whispers in the living room. I thought I might throw up. There is also a note from our legal team, David said gently. It says that if you appear, we are to ask you to open the accompanying envelope in the presence of bank staff. He gestured to a sealed white envelope in the file. On the front, in Grandpa's block letters, for Erica, with a banker. My throat closed. I nodded. We went to the vault. The heavy door swung open like a slow planet. Box 317 slid out with a hush. David set it on the table and stepped back. We can stay or give you privacy. Stay, I said. My hands weren't steady enough for secrets. Inside the box, a stack of documents bound with a rubber band, a blue spiral notebook, and a small gray flash drive. On top, another envelope. I opened it with a paper knife because the moment felt ceremonial and I didn't trust my fingers. Erica, if you're reading this, I've taken my last ride. I left you the box because I saw how this house bent your back. I tried to say things out loud, but your mother hears what she wants. You were kind when no one paid you back. I had some savings. I didn't tell them because I wanted you to have a chance. It's not millions. It's enough to breathe. Use it to get out. Also, I kept records. I'm old school. In this notebook are the times your mother used my card without asking, and the cash I gave Pete that never went to bills. I didn't want drama, but truth is truth. The flash drive has copies of statements. Give them to the lawyer if they try to make you feel crazy. Don't argue with fools. Love you, kid. A hot, shaky laugh broke out of me, then an ugly sob right behind it. David handed me a tissue like he'd done this before. Under the letter was the cashier's check receipt. My eyes ran the numbers 3 times before they made sense. 142,000. Grandpa had liquidated a certificate and put the funds under my name, an account I'd never seen because it lived on the bank's private client side with his trucker buddies' pooled savings club. The balance hadn't been touched. There was also a folder of signed instructions to the bank, time-stamped, notarized, airtight. David exhaled. I'm sorry for your loss, he said, and then quieter, and for the circus you walked in with. Someone tried to access this, I said, pointing at the notes. He nodded. We'll handle it. If anyone attempts again, the account is flagged. Outside the vault, my phone exploded with notifications. Home, 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 Mom, Kayla, Pete. The group chat lit up like a building on fire. Mom, where are you? Bring the key. Pete, we need to see the contents. Kayla, don't be weird. A new message popped up before I could put the phone away. Mom, if you take anything from that box without us, don't come back. You hear me? Don't come back to this house. I read it twice, 3 times. The words settled like ash. This house, the one I scrubbed, paid for, warmed in winter. I was still in my suit. My shoulders ached from years of carrying groceries and water heaters and other people's emergencies. I felt suddenly, sharply awake. I typed slowly. Me, understood. David watched me. Careful, he said. Do you have somewhere safe to go? I realized I didn't, not yet. My backpack sat at the bank of chairs in the lobby with a pair of work gloves peeking out. My life fit in something you could misplace. I will, I said, soon. He nodded, like people do when they don't want to push. We can provide a cashier's check or open an account in your name. Also, regarding the attempted access, would you like us to notify your attorney? Please, I said, and gave him Mr. Delaney's card. I left the bank with a folder in a crisp blue envelope and the kind of quiet you carry in your chest when you realize the argument ended without you. I walked 2 blocks to the bus stop and sat on the plastic bench. The city moved around me. Cars. A kid on a scooter. A woman arguing on speakerphone about a deposit. When the bus came, I didn't get on. I texted my night supervisor instead. Me, emergency. I can't make tonight. Supervisor, you okay? Me, I think so. Long story. Supervisor, take the night, come tomorrow. I ordered a cheap motel for 2 nights with the debit card I'd opened on the bank app while my hands were still shaking. I went back to the house in daylight because daylight makes people behave. They didn't. Mom met me on the porch, arms crossed. Pete stood behind her, a bouncer who also does taxes. Kayla was by the window, phone up like a witness for social media. Give me the box, Mom said. It stays at the bank, I said. My voice surprised me. It was steady. You're not taking our things, Pete puffed. They're Grandpa's things, I said, and he left them to me. Kayla laughed. What things? Receipts. Receipts? Yes, I said. Mom stepped forward. You live here. For the next 10 minutes, I said, to get my clothes. You're not serious. I am. Kayla scoffed. Over what? A notebook? You think you're better than us because Grandpa felt sorry for you? I stared at her. I think I'm done. Done with what? Being the wallet with a mop, I said. Being told I owe you for existing. Don't you dare, Mom hissed. Don't you dare act like we didn't feed you. I fed me, I said, and you. And the electric meter, and the winter, and the broken dryer, and the car you co-signed. Check the bank statements or don't. I don't care anymore. Pete stepped toward me. Lower your voice. I met his eyes. No. He stopped. I walked past them. In my room, I pulled my duffel from under the bed. Jeans, hoodies, socks, the photo of Grandpa and me at the lake, both of us squinting because we'd forgotten hats. I took the toolbox Grandpa left Pete and removed my hammer and tape measure because I'd bought those and written my initials on the handles. Petty? Maybe. Honest? Definitely. On my way out, Mom blocked the door. If you leave like this, she said low, don't come back. There it was again. The brick they wanted to throw and call a pillow. I shifted the duffel on my shoulder. Okay. She wasn't expecting that. Her face flickered. What do you mean, okay? I mean, I won't come back. Who's going to pay the bills? Pete blurted. The question hung in the air like a string pulled too tight. Not me, I said. Wow, Kayla muttered. Unbelievable. I walked past them and felt the sun on my face, honest and warm. The key settled against my chest. The bus stop was 3 blocks away. The duffel strap bit into my shoulder in a familiar way. I knew that pain. I'd carried it for years. This time it felt like forward motion. At the motel, I showered too hot and sat on the bed with the blue envelope. I called Mr. Delaney. He answered on the second ring. "I have Grandpa's notebook," I said, and the bank flagged attempts from my family. He didn't say I figured. He said, "Bring it in tomorrow. We'll make copies. We'll make a plan." I slept like a person who'd been holding her breath since she was 19 and finally found the surface. It's been 6 months. I'm still a janitor. I still like empty buildings at night. Now I rent a small studio with a lock that's only mine. The first evening, I ate pizza on the floor and cried when the heater kicked on. It sounded like safety. Grandpa's money gave me options, not yachts. Breath. I paid the deposit and a couple months' rent, replaced my boots, started an emergency fund, opened a savings account, only I control. I still budget tight, but the bear lives in another forest now. Through Mr. Delaney, I sent letters. Stop trying to access Box 317. Talk to my lawyer. No fireworks, just paper. Mom texted, "You lied." I replied, I stopped agreeing. Pete sent a contribution spreadsheet. I ignored it. Kayla posted betrayal songs. I muted her. Boundaries are quiet doors that lock. A week later, David called. "One more envelope," he said. "Open it when your hands stop shaking." Inside was a Polaroid of Grandpa and me bent over a crossword. On the back, 6 letters. Starts with R. What you build when you stop letting people use you. Answer, respect. I carry it in my wallet. Work is still work. Loud hospitals, scared spills, machines beeping. I push the mop and hum. I asked off doubles. About time, my boss said. Now I get Saturdays. I see the river. I cook eggs without counting bread like coins. 2 months ago, I passed the old house. Long grass, ragged apple tree, overdue notice on the door. No triumph, just distance. Last week, Kayla texted, "I'm sorry I was cruel." I wrote back, "I hope you're okay." She sent a photo of Grandpa's camera, started a class. People can surprise you. My boundaries aren't punishment. They're a fence around my own garden. Mom hasn't apologized. She wrote about loyalty, blood, and the house you abandoned. I didn't answer. Blood isn't a hall pass. Loyalty isn't a leash. That house was a weight. I put it down. I keep the bank folder in my desk. Not to feel rich, to feel sane. Grandpa didn't change who I am. He gave me space to be the woman who fixes things and finally shows up for herself. I still hear, "Don't embarrass us." My answer now, I'm not your embarrassment. I'm your mirror. Every morning I remind myself, I am not a wallet. I am not a mop. I am a person. If you're where I was, one favor at a time, temporary forever, hear Grandpa's line. Don't argue with fools. There's no prize. Put your backbone to work. Open the door. It'll feel like betrayal to the users, not your problem. Your problem is your life. Grandpa's last words to me were simple. You're good. Don't let them tell you different. I don't anymore. I'm not a headline or a miracle. I'm a janitor who got thrown out after the will, went to the bank with an old card, saw a manager turn pale, and learned the real inheritance is deciding your life is yours. It didn't end with a fight. It ended with a key on a string and a door I finally walked through.